Next, Jesse Gilmour.
His new novel, Night Nurse, is a meditation on masculinity, guilt, and fate. It follows Harley, the final keeper of a terrible family secret, as he attempts to dismantle his own illusions, keep up a voracious benzodiazepine habit, and please his sociopathic girlfriend until the book's comedic and heartbreaking final pages. Jesse works as an addictions counselor in Toronto.
Hi there. I'd like to thank the final people who stuck around. It means a lot. And I'd like to thank Louise Bak for being an eternal support for me and putting this whole thing together. So thank you, Louise. This book is about a very complex relationship between siblings, and the younger sibling, the female in the relationship, does something very terrible when she's about 12 years old. And I'm just going to start it with that. This beginning excerpt is Harley, the older brother, visiting her in a psychiatric prison, and on it goes from there. It was a psychiatric prison, a great teal building that cost me $40 to get to by taxi. Surrounded by dark, lush fields, a girl came out wearing a purple windbreaker. She was with an older man who could have been her boyfriend or her father. She laughed, but in the wrong way. They got into a car and drove off. Inside, I walked through the metal detector, showed my identification to the guards, signed the papers. Even though she was only 12, she behaved like a dying princess. She commanded attention because of it. Her silence and formality suggesting a relationship with another world, which, I realized as she entered the cement room papered with motivational posters, she had. It had been 6 months since I'd seen her. I noticed immediately that the way she sat had changed. Gone was the convention. She sat like a boy now, her legs splayed, her posture slumped. They were allowed to wear their own clothes. So she wore a summer dress. Her long black hair was braided and hanging over her left shoulder. The first thing she said to me was, "You can't ask me why I did it, Harley. That's the rule. If you ask me that, I'll never see you again. I'll take you off the visiting list. And even when I get out, we'll be done." I breathed in. "Are you okay in here?" "I guess. It's not that kind of place, Harley. It's for crazy people. And crazy people are nice to one another." "Are you crazy?" "I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder." "Well, so had about 6 of my ex-girlfriends, and it never killed anybody, but I didn't say that. I said, anything else, like schizophrenia, or anything else," I softly repeated. She looked over my head at something. I turned around to see what it was. An orderly dressed in white, leaning beneath a small clock. But her gaze implied that she was looking past him, too. "The tests haven't come in yet." She laughed quietly. "What are your sleeping arrangements like?" "I have a roommate. She has night terrors. It's irritating." "What did she do?" "Burned her house down." "Anyone in it?" She nodded slowly. "Do you have night terrors?" "No." "You sleep well?" "Yes, Harley. Do you?" "All right, I guess." The night she was arrested, I drove home from the cottage with my dad and asked him to drop me off on a random corner, St. Clair and Keele. He pulled over and gave me some money and said, "Come home when you like." The next 6 blocks were under construction, the silent cranes frozen, mid-pose. I walked beside a man-made hole in the ground that stretched on for a kilometer. It was as if they'd emptied the Thames. 16 years later. Sarah answered the door in an expensive camouflage tights and an orange hoodie. She was holding a glass of red wine. There are large windows looking onto the block of artificial trees. There are paintings, Modiglianis and Renoirs. The sofa is artfully draped in what I imagine is expensive fabric, and in the center of everything is a long oak table with her computer and paper spread, again artfully, on top. The bathroom has a burning candle and French hand soap on the edge of an immaculate sink. The shower curtain is patterned with Louis Vuitton, which she has expressed to me as vulgar, so it's an irony, I suppose. I wash my face with the water from the sink that flowed full and clear. Her bedroom, a room I've only seen 3 or 4 times in the 2 years she's lived here, has a king-size bed and candles surrounding it, pale yellow beeswax, a down comforter, and another bathroom which I've never been in, never been allowed to use. The whole house smells of bleach, but softly. Her apartment was beautiful. That's one of the reasons I kept coming back. "Take off your shoes," she said. I'm an expert at getting drugs out of doctors, but I've never quite found the rhythm of asking her for money. It's as if she reflexively knows when the request is coming and will start picking skin off her fingers in an odd, alienating fashion or start fluffing the pillows. She does this, I think, to humiliate me, but I'm high right now, so I don't give a shit. When I'm in the zone, the reality of my life, of money, of rent, of groceries, seems far away. So does my age. The numbers of my age, 35, seem camouflaged in ice and forestry. Everything just feels like it will work out, and that is, of course, the best time to ask for something. She pours me wine. The way the bottle looks, the way it's corked, even the writing on it suggests somehow that she doesn't have a trace of alcohol dependence in her. She carries the bottle with just slightly more formality than she would carry a carton of milk. My father either carried it like a carton of milk or an artifact, and when she pours me a drink, it's always the end of the bottle, which is fine by me. But she only offers me one drink when I visit her, and she's always holding one, her last of the evening, when she answers the door. Her hair was longer and blacker than usual. She has stopped wearing a braid since her release. Why don't you wear your hair in a braid anymore? Not the season for it. But I don't remember you doing it since. Why are you so curious about my hair? She said, and sat about a quarter of a foot too close to me. I picked up one of her manicured hands, smelled it, lilac. I said, I was thinking of taking you out for dinner. That's sweet, she said. She got up and went to the other room for a moment. The drugs had peaked, and I stared at the tall ceilings and thought about chapels. How manipulative I'd become, like a perfect line of spray paint through stained glass. I thought of conversations we could have, and this, mixed with the drugs and the impending cash, struck me as an exciting thing to think about. Then, thinking itself felt kind of exciting. She came back holding her checkbook. She sat at the old oak table, as far from me as possible, and wrote a check. I was about to thank her when she placed it into an envelope and returned it into her purse. Then she went back to her room and returned without it. I said in an almost whisper, I need money. I don't have that much, she said. I can't. Sarah, I said, how's the job search going? Sarah, it's just hardly one of these days I won't be able to. Why not? You're like a millionaire. Yes, but I work for that money, and you don't do anything. I do things. You wander around. And why do I wander around, Sarah? There was an oil lamp next to her papers, and I got up and came around the side of the table and lit it. We watched the flames together. I stood behind her. I put my hands on her shoulders, gave them a light squeeze. What do you need, she said. 3,000 should do it, I said, grinning. I've got her. Okay, she said, with fake exasperation that served as a brief conclusion to the battle. Now I really can take you out for dinner. When? Tonight. She took my hand in the elevator. She did this often, and even when she was a kid, I felt a confused carnality to it, as if she wanted me to be her boyfriend, or at the very least, something more than I could give her. She had conquered, upon her release, the economic constraints of our society, and with that came many gifts, but like the 1,000 other young women in her building peering out their windows before bedtime, she had not conquered loneliness. We sat across from one another at an empty Italian restaurant near a condo. She ordered ice water. I ordered a Stolichnaya. She looked down at the drink. I'm trying to make this a family outing, I said. Do you remember him behind the mosquito net? At the cottage? Yeah, what was all that craziness about? I knew the answer but wanted to hear it from her. His girlfriend left him. Right. Do you remember her? Not really. It was one of many. You know, I'm still angry with him. For cutting you off? She took a sip of her ice water and looked down at the menu. No, for ruining my experience of men. Then I looked down. And then, Sarah, why don't you have a boyfriend? I don't want to talk about it. Okay. Are you still with the same girl, Harley? Yes, I said. Why does she stay with you? What kind of question is that? Why are you out for dinner with me? With that question, she grabs my hand under the table and squeezes it and doesn't let go until I make an effort to free myself. But she grabs it again, whispers, I'm scared. Scared of what? Myself. What do you mean? I'm hoping that's what's coming is an existential complaint, not something real. The truth is I feel like talking about myself. I think, oh, forget it. You know what? I'll pay for dinner. No, I insist. I lean back in my chair. She watched me, squinting slightly. Sarah was always interested in people changing in front of her. What are you scared of? She ignored the question, or maybe she didn't. When I think of being in there, I miss it, kind of. I had company, she said. Who is your best friend again? A girl who burned her house down. Right. Anyone in it? Her brother and her parents. Nice friend. A gust of evil. She never reoffended. A gust of evil. A gust of evil. She looked at me. I knew what she was trying to say. It happens sometimes. She almost talks about it. I said, do you ever think of doing bad things? No. I looked down at the lights twitching in the city at 4 o'clock in the morning, trying to muster some gratitude. Gratitude's a funny one. The waiter arrived, bald with a silver pen hanging delicately out of his breast pocket. We ordered our food, a Coke and another ice water. But where does it come from, Sarah? From the lake, I think, or the moon. She drained her ice water. And now I don't want to talk about it anymore. A couple arrived. A man in a beautifully tailored suit and his girlfriend in a slim black dress. They sat in a lightless corner and became figures. The lake or the moon, I repeated under my breath. It was an oddly poetic thing to say, as if she'd been reading things she shouldn't have been reading. A girl like that should stick to textbooks. Who knows what a finely turned phrase or a beautiful metaphor could do to her psyche. I was never afraid of her, not for one moment, because even if it hadn't just been a gust of evil, even if she was a psychopath, there was some instinct in her to protect me, and that compassion existed only for me, her older brother. It was the final vestige of things in this world that suggested I was special. This next excerpt is called Withdrawal. I have a girlfriend named Marty. Ativan takes the magic out of the smell of a woman's body, makes it matter of fact, like the smell coming from a man's body, just sweeter, but cloyingly so. I wasn't quite repulsed by it, but I avoided it. Sometimes in the middle of the night when the drugs wore off, I could feel the cold air slipping from under the doorway. I became haunted about the end of things. Just the fact that they ended, it made me want to run down the street to raise my body temperature. It made me want to outrun death. Withdrawal gripped me at 4 o'clock in the morning. It arrived early, unannounced but voracious. Excuse me for a moment. Unannounced but voracious. The dryness of the mouth, the conveyor belt starting up. Story time. It's hallucinatory. A dream within a dream within a dream met with pale sunlight. Where else could I have gone? Down the street for a gin with the other mourners? There was a violent purple quality to the darkness of her bedroom. Oh, Marquis, when you're gone it will kill me. When the pills are gone it will kill me. I will replay every encounter at a crippling slowness, unfiltered, and it will kill me. There is no cushioning to my bones, so of course, like a coward, I woke her. She sat in the corner of the bed, in the corner of the room, with her sheet pulled up to her neck. I got up and stood stark naked in front of her. I asked her if she loved me. I asked her if I'd said anything strange over the last year. Anything strange. Anything strange. You can't escape it. Once a month it comes. The mathematics don't work out and you don't have enough pills to get you through. I had a psychiatrist appointment in 2 days. Why did I take so many? In my memory, I scanned pamphlets I've seen on withdrawal. One gets physically addicted in 4 months. I'm at the point now where a cold kick would kill me. Maybe that wouldn't be so bad. The darkness was now like the inside of a woman, but a barren woman, and one who has never even heard of someone like me. I excused myself and went to her bathroom. I said a little prayer in front of her mirrored cabinet. I turned on the tap and had a look. She's a delicate creature. Perhaps she had a panic attack once and visited her family doctor, who gave her a prescription. She probably took one, made her too sleepy, and she deposited the little pill of miracles, and they are miracles, back in the cabinet and forgot about them. I opened the cabinet. Gravol, Pepto-Bismol. I emptied the package of Gravol into my hand, downed all of them with water from the sink that sputtered, unlike my sister's, in grainy droplets. I turned off the light and got back into bed. Gravol took a half an hour. I tried positive thinking. I tried to look at my thoughts, degenerate thoughts of recrimination, as leaves floating on a lake, passing through me and floating. Objective leaves, nothing to do with the makeup of my soul. It actually worked for a moment. But soon there was something else floating in the lake, and I put on my coat, wordlessly, leaving Marquis like a statue propped in the corner of the room, and called a taxi. My heart was going out of my chest. The cabbie looked at me suspiciously through his rear view, little darting glances. I will have to apologize to Marquis for taking all her Gravol, but that can be handled later. I have to apologize to the cabbie now for being me. But first, a story for the ER. I don't feel like using my dead father tonight because, frankly, I don't think it will work. The cabbie pulled up outside emergency. I paid him, my hands shaking. I could picture myself bathed in blood, standing in front of another hospital. I said another prayer and walked through the electric doors. I looked like a dead man, but there are other dead men, some wearing hats and some with their wives, some grimacing and some staring out the window, some even smiling. The religious, I imagined, were smiling, because this is all part of it. They have not narrowed their life into needing one thing, and their sickness is not from their own hand. I waited 1 hour, 2 hours. The photographs began to play, photographs of my performance. The images are abrupt, focused, from banal, at the convenience store being overly friendly to a cashier, to more suggestive, asking my sister for money, using my dead father's memory as a means of getting high. It's not the acts themselves that are worrisome, or all that worrisome. It's the alienating fact that they were performed by a different person. Alienating isn't the right word. Alien is. There's something about memory, and the fact that no matter how hard you push it away, it stays intact like some malignant light bright in space. Disconnection and memory, and my terminal illness spinning alongside me. So I wait, and I wait. 1 hour, 2 hours. I'm about to take my jacket off, but the normalcy of the act sickens me. I need to keep the desperation burning. Throwing a jacket on the flames, so to speak, won't do the trick. Finally, I saw the triage. They hooked me up to a machine and then, worriedly, deposited me promptly in front of a doctor. The doctor was my age, red-headed, unsmiling but concerned. Because it is what someone unfamiliar with panic disorder would say, with the last amount of strategic dishonesty I could muster, I whispered, "I'm having a heart attack." He deposited 2 Xanax in my hand and a prescription for 10 more, along with a set of flyers of cognitive behavioral therapy, which I rapidly deposited into a trash can on my way out the door and across the street to Tim Hortons. Usually, while I'm in public places at inappropriate times, my stillness casting a spotlight amongst me on the purposeful, someone reminds me of my mother, like the morning across from the hospital, the woman behind the counter of the coffee shop, with her long, dyed blonde hair and her slightly upturned nose, the way she stood, waiting with her hands on her hips. I can remember my mother waiting like that in the kitchen. I can also remember her laughing, mostly at things my father said. She was equally loving of my sister and me. I do remember that. Maybe even more loving of my sister, the younger child, the baby in the family. And I'm all right with that. If anything, it makes me happy. I don't feel that I need as much love as everybody else. My mother would be close to 70 now. The woman behind the counter is in her 40s. She looked tired, and as if she had questions for me. "Who are you? Why are you in a coffee shop at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday? Don't you have a job?" But then she smiled, and for a moment I was standing directly in front of my mom. I said to her, "Did I turn out okay?" "The coffee? No, did I?" "My dear, I don't know you. Do you have any children?" "Yes, a son." "And how old is he?" If I've turned the corner from troubled youth into the arena of the homeless, the crazed, the kind of adult man you cross the street to avoid, I don't mind it in that moment. And I realize why crazy people are so unself-conscious. It's because they've somehow accepted themselves, accepted their curiosity about the world. That's why they ask you questions, sometimes banal, but always startling. It's something born out of being alone all the time. "He's 14, she responded, smiling. "My parents are dead," I said, "but I still think about them almost every day." And with that, I reached out to shake her hand. She hesitated for a moment, then obliged. She touched me softly on the shoulder. "Do you have somewhere to go?" "Yes, I have a girlfriend and a sister." Thank God for women, yes? The yes breaks the spell. It has a British inflection to it. She says it in a way that my mother never would. "I'm going to go now," I said. And out across the street I go, to another pharmacy, to fill another prescription. Thank you very much.